What's up, darts fans? Welcome back to dartsreport.com. Smash that like button so you don't miss a thing.
Stephen Bunting signs off in style, but Gerwyn Price halts a semifinal over crowd misconduct. So what's actually going on?
Stephen "the Bullet" Bunting has ended his 2026 Premier League campaign with one of his best nights of the season. He defeated Luke "Cool Hand" Humphries 6-3 in the final in Sheffield to claim the last weekly title of the regular league phase. The Bullet averaged 106.37 in a high-quality final, with Humphries also above the ton mark at 102.23. Bunting's scoring bursts and finishing power proved decisive.
The victory secured Bunting 5th place in the final table, even though his late surge came too late to force his way into finals night at the O2. For Humphries, defeat in the final did not undo the bigger picture of the evening. His semifinal win over Luke "the Nuke" Littler secured 3rd place in the final standings, meaning the reigning Premier League champion will face Johnny Clayton in London, while Littler takes on Gerwyn "the Iceman" Price. This dropped from @officialPDC on X.
The ball at worst ways up. It won't matter about that now because he smashed in a 6th maxi at the start of the 9th leg.
Yeah, he went a bit risk and reward, didn't he? Because he's 5-2 up. He felt it was a good time to do it.
Bunting's route to the final began with a 6-3 win over Clayton in the quarterfinal. Clayton averaged 104.90, hit back with a 101 finish, and had a burst of back-to-back maximums in leg 4. But Bunting stayed composed and punished key openings, including a 102 checkout in leg 5, before closing the match on D12. His semifinal win over Price was even more eye-catching. Price started sharply, opening with a 180 and moving 2-0 ahead, but Bunting worked his way into the contest before taking control with a superb run of finishing. A 161 checkout gave him the lead for the first time, a 100 finish moved him to the brink, and a 104 checkout on D18 sealed a 6-3 victory and completed a hat-trick of ton-plus finishes. That semifinal also had one of the night's more unusual moments when a whistler interrupted play while Bunting was throwing. Price immediately paused the match, pointed out the spectator to security, and ensured they were removed before play continued. Humphries reached the final through 2 very different matches. First, he edged Michael van Gerwen 6-5 in the last quarterfinal of the night, surviving a tense decider after van Gerwen wired the bull for a 164 checkout. Humphries stepped in on D16 to win it, keeping his strong late-season run alive and ending van Gerwen's Premier League campaign with another narrow defeat. He then produced one of his most dominant performances of the campaign against Littler. After dropping the opening leg, Humphries reeled off 6 in a row to win 6-1, hitting 4 180s and closing the match with an 87 checkout on D9. The victory sent him into a 4th consecutive weekly final and secured 3rd place in the final league table. In the final, Bunting made the stronger start. He opened the first leg with 4 perfect darts, later added a 2nd maximum to leave 58, and survived a scare when Humphries wired the bull for a 161 checkout. Bunting returned on D10 to hold throw. A 41 finish on D16 moved Bunting 2-0 ahead before a clinical 78 checkout on tops made it 3-0. Humphries finally got on the board with a 52 finish, but Bunting's scoring continued to set the tone. His 5th maximum of the final pushed his average towards 115, and he restored a 4-1 lead. The best Humphries moment came in leg 6 when he produced a brilliant 132 checkout on the bullseye, earning a fist bump of respect from Bunting as he cut the gap to 4-2. Bunting responded with a clean 2-dart 80 finish on D10 to move 5-2 ahead. Humphries stayed alive on D8 after Bunting made a mess of 90, but in the 9th leg, Bunting again threatened a perfect finish, opening with 6 treble 20s before dart 7 ended the 9-dart bid. He still returned to clean up 41 on D8, sealing a 6-3 win and ending his campaign with a 2nd nightly title.
What a way to sign off. Bunting finishes 5th, but you have to wonder, if he'd found this form a few weeks earlier, could he have crashed finals night? Let us know what you think in the comments.
Speaking of that semifinal, Price halts match over Fan. The semifinal between Gerwyn "the Iceman" Price and Stephen Bunting on the final match night
featured a remarkable incident. The match was temporarily halted after a spectator repeatedly misbehaved in the arena. Price refused to throw another dart until the supporter was removed from the crowd. At the time of the incident, the Welshman was leading 2-1 in legs. According to Sky Sports commentator Wayne Mardle, there was a supporter who was being awkward and being a bit of a wally. Price then decided to take a clear stand. According to Mardle, the former world champion stated he would not throw another dart as long as the supporter in question was still present in the arena. Security then intervened and removed the person from the crowd, after which the match was resumed without further issues. The PDC confirmed the incident on Twitter. Price made his stance clear: no darts until the fan was gone.
Beautiful dart. Look at this.
The incident once again highlights how susceptible darts matches can be to disturbances from the crowd, especially in the Premier League, where the atmosphere is often exuberant and alcohol plays a major role. Emotions can sometimes run high. In recent years, the PDC has repeatedly warned against crossing the line, including whistling during throws, chanting, and personal insults directed at players. For Price, this is not the first time he has spoken out about fan behavior. The Welshman has repeatedly stated in the past that he believes certain supporters deliberately try to disrupt players' concentration. His reaction during the semi-final showed he now has little tolerance left for it. After the interruption, Price quickly managed to regain his focus, though he went on to lose to Bunting. The incident sparked considerable debate among darts fans on social media afterward. In particular, the question of whether players should more often have the right to temporarily halt matches in response to crowd misconduct drew strong reactions. You gotta ask yourself, should players have that power, or should security be quicker to act? Now for something a bit different. Greaves on Van Gerwen's kindness. Beau Greaves has opened up about the special bond she shares with Michael Van Gerwen, recalling how the three-time world champion still remembers playing her when she was just 12 years old. Speaking to TalkSport, Greaves revealed that Van Gerwen makes a point of speaking to her on the PDC Tour, a gesture she deeply appreciates as the only female tour card holder.
Greaves first met Van Gerwen almost a decade ago when she was a 12-year-old prodigy backed heavily by the BBC after bursting onto the scene in 2016. That early exposure led to a golden opportunity to step onto the board with the Green Machine. 9 years later, Greaves has become the dominant force in women's darts, winning 55 Women's Series titles and making history as the first woman to win a PDC ranking title at Players' Championship 11.
The pair met again on stage at the Grand Slam of Darts, where Greaves was drawn in the same group as Van Gerwen. She averaged 101.47 before losing 5-4 in a very tight match. Reflecting on that encounter, Greaves said, "When I was in his group at the Grand Slam, I was like, this is the time where it is all coming back into place. I have worked hard to get myself into that position, then be able to play, so that was nice." It was funny, because when I saw him at the time, he said he still remembered playing me, and it was great that I stuck with it and came through. Stuff like that, when you were 12, you don't realize where you will be in 10 years. I was so happy when I look back, I was in the position I was in, and I stuck with it. Now, I am on the same tour as him and playing him, which is cool. Greaves also highlighted Van Gerwen's consistent kindness. The thing is, with me being the only girl on tour, he always makes a point to talk to me, which I think is nice. I am the only girl there now, so it is different. I'm not in with a lot of them. So it is nice he always says hi. I appreciate that. Classy stuff from MVG. And in less cheerful news, Evans blasts himself. Ricky Evans has been brutally honest about his nightmare week at Players' Championship 17 and 18, admitting he played absolute dog poo after failing to get past the first round in either event. The Kettering darter, known for his rapid style, returned to Pro Tour action after skipping a brace of events for the first time in his career, having previously featured in 520 consecutive Players' Championship events.
Evans endured a disastrous showing in Leicester, losing in the first round of both matches. Despite facing world-class opposition in Stephen Bunting and Ross Smith, he could only average 77 in each match. The world number 49 took to social media to vent his frustrations, writing, "Thank God this week's over. Couldn't grip or throw a dart properly. Doesn't help when it's my job."
2 players, champs draws against 2 world-class players. And I played absolute dog poo, basically giving them easy wins. That's not me. Today, 2 Euro qualifiers. A little better, but still nothing anywhere near the world-class player I know I am.
Evans, a former UK Open semi-finalist, has shown his quality on the big stage, including a quarter-final run at the Grand Slam of Darts last year. However, he is still without a third-round appearance on the floor in 2026, and his consistency remains a concern. He's now taken a few days off. Hopefully the break does him good.
And finally, a big interview from the Netherlands. Van Veen opens up on debut.
Jan van Veen has opened up on his debut Premier League darts campaign, admitting he told himself after the Rotterdam night, this isn't Premier League worthy. The 24-year-old Dutchman, who finished 7th in the 2026 standings, spoke at length on the podcast Darts Dright Door about a season that began sensationally, but was derailed by a kidney stone operation and a controversial incident with Luke Littler. Van Veen reached a nightly final in 3 of the first 4 match weeks and remained in playoff contention until the penultimate week. However, a nightly win eluded him, and after Rotterdam Ahoy, he was strikingly harsh on himself. I said emotionally, this isn't Premier League worthy. At that moment, it genuinely felt like that. I don't think I showed the level of darts I'd hoped for, he recalled.
The fact I was still in contention for the playoffs going into the penultimate week means I can definitely be proud of that. There are plenty of players who played their first Premier League season and were barely seen afterwards. Luckily, that hasn't happened to me.
He rated his season a 5.5, or maybe a 6. I'd say a 6.5. The turning point came when Van Veen suffered an attack of kidney stones, requiring surgery and forcing him to miss an entire night in Berlin, which automatically handed him a 6-0 defeat against Michael van Gerwen. A huge impact, definitely, he admitted. Not just because I missed 1 week. Physically, the week after wasn't great either. Van Veen also confessed he downplayed the after effects. I probably convinced myself it wasn't affecting me as much as it actually was, and that's a shame. I wouldn't say I'm still really suffering from it now, but I do notice I'm not the same player I was a few months ago. At the same time, I feel like that level is starting to come back. Off the board, Van Veen came under scrutiny in Manchester after an incident with Luke Littler, sparking weeks of debate. He downplayed the impact. It didn't really affect my performances, and I also haven't played him again since then, which probably helps too. On their relationship, he said, not really any differently than before. He's a perfectly fine guy, but even before all that, we never had loads of contact. Struggling with grip issues that had caused his thumb to split open during last year's European Championship, Van Veen eventually changed his darts during the Premier League. I knew something had to change eventually, but things were going so well, he explained. During the Premier League, when things started going worse and after the operation, my confidence dropped. Then I received a new set of darts and thought, this feels like the right moment. The switch has brought more calm.
So what do you think? Did kidney stones cost Van Veen a playoff spot? And will he bounce back stronger next season? Let us know in the comments.
What a night in Sheffield. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest fallout from the Premier League. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss a thing. See you tomorrow.